I think that the demand for racism has been much higher than the supply for a long time.
What?
Was there a time, Zuby, when we did need to have this conversation, but maybe we've gone into a more post-racial world now?
There was probably a time, but it was also probably before I was born.
Wow. Okay.
You know, the fact that these conversations are happening more now around racism and what I would call racialism, a lot of it has been imported from the USA, that's for sure. And it's happening all across the West. So these same conversations and concerns that are happening right here and these type of investigations, the exact same things happening all across the USA, but with even more fervor. It's happening in Canada, it's happening in Australia. Basically any Western, particularly English-speaking Anglosphere country, these conversations are going on. And I think that the demand for racism has been much higher than the supply for a long time.
What? He said the demand for racism has been much higher than the supply. Oh, brother, this is gonna be a long, it's gonna be a long video, man. Oh my gosh.
I see what you mean, but who's vested in that then? Who has a vested interest in there being more racism than there really is?
People who profit from it.
Which is who?
There are organizations, there are groups, there are politicians, there are activists whose entire livelihood and reason for being would cease to exist if everyone just said, actually, you know what, we all agree that racism is bad. We also agree that more than pretty much any other part of the world or any other time in human history, we've made more progress in combating it, which was necessary in the past and, you know, and still is as we go on. But you don't combat racism with more racism.
But there'll be black guys watching this at home now who are like, hang on a minute, Zuby. You, like me, you will have been stopped more for knife crime. You might have not been prioritized for certain jobs. Like, you might have found yourself on the receiving end of insults on the street or threats from people.
Yeah.
So how do you not experience that? Or if you do you just handle it differently?
I honestly have not experienced it. And through the nature of what I've done, I've actually.
And here's the thing, man. When it comes to issues like this, a lot of people haven't experienced these type of issues, if we're being 100% honest. And when he's saying that the demand for racism is higher than the supply, here's my thing, bro. Here's my thing. When you get to teaching students about this stuff in like elementary school and middle school, and you see it, like you see these narratives being pushed literally everywhere, it kind of makes you think that way too. Because it gets to the form of, wow, I haven't experienced this in my life. And I don't really know many people who have experienced this in my life, but since I'm seeing it everywhere, it must exist. That's the mindset that the majority of people have. So when he's saying like the demand is higher than the supply, and then he also on the other hand says, well, yeah, I haven't even experienced some of these things, I just see it. That's the reality of majority of people. Like, you haven't experienced it. You don't even know people who have experienced it. You just kind of see it on social media. You see it being taught in schools, and it's like, wow, maybe this exists somewhere. I don't know where, but maybe it exists somewhere.
We met hundreds of thousands of people in the UK. Not exaggerating. I used to sell my CDs on the street and in shopping centers. I did that for over a decade. I have met hundreds of thousands of people in this country. I've traveled the world a lot. And I think I can categorically and fairly say that the UK is one of the least racist countries in the entire world.
Oh, I think that's
by quite a significant margin.
Absolutely. No doubt.
And
we have to look at our government, look at our cabinet, look at our Prime Minister.
Exactly. Now I'll say that and someone will go and say, oh, he said racism doesn't exist. No, I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. It exists in every single country. It's a part of the human sin of, you know, bias and elements of tribalism. Right? Yeah. Tribalism in itself is not always inherently bad, but it can go off in bad ways.
Just white people who are
no,
racist.
not at all. No, not at all. So.
And he just made a good point. Like, when you talk about racism and its presence in society, someone like him, you're probably going to get the idea that, oh, you're saying racism doesn't exist. But that's not the case at all. Like, it's not to sound like that type of guy, but this type of stuff is like, it's unfortunate, but it's like a natural part of life, I guess. Like tribalism, I guess, racism, or you're not from here. Like that's just, I don't know why we act like that, but humans act like that. Like I can't even explain it. It's from the beginning of time. That's a part of society. So when you're fighting these issues, like he said, the demand is higher. That's low-key facts, because it's like a losing battle. It's like people who are teaching this, who are trying to push this into society, deep down they know that society where zero discrimination exists, it has never happened in history. It won't happen on Earth, if we're being honest. And when you look at America or Western civilizations, they literally do have the least racist civilizations on Earth. Like, that's not really a debate. It's like, it's just what it is in society, because we did fight hard for this. So when you bring these issues up about tribalism, or I guess people know that it will never be 100% solved, but they move through life with this, like, it's like they're faking it. They like fake want to help people. They fake want to move it away, but deep down they know it will never be solved. They just know it makes them money. So they don't care. They just push for more divide, which is ironic because they're putting off the message that they're pushing for less divide.
So these sort of ideas, these radical ideas, which, you know, the term cultural Marxism has been sort of overused, but this is really what it is. Rather than looking at the class division, this is now splitting it across racial lines and trying to get and set people at each other's throats based on their skin color, their ethnic background, and so on. And ultimately, as Ben's already said, I mean, number one, many aspects of it are simply not true. And then secondly, it's not helpful, right? No one ever explains, okay, if you're gonna go and you're gonna sit a bunch of children down and you're gonna brainwash them with this nonsense, who is this helping? How is this going to help the black or brown kids? How is this going to help the white kids? How is this going to help anyone? It's just gonna make them look at each other with suspicion, harbor resentment, and that is the kind of thing that will actually cause real racism.
Okay, and I'm very much playing devil's advocate here because I pretty much agree with everything that you're saying. But in order to have a good debate on this, I think it's important. I'm putting myself in the shoes of people that I would know who would say, well, hang on a minute, my son won't have the same opportunities because they are black or Indian, Asian, as your white son will.
I think
actually,
it doesn't.
And saying something like that, to me, phrases like that to me have always been like a form of gaslighting. So you're trying to convince, like, when I hate when people say stuff like that, because they're saying, well, you won't have the same opportunities. But in my mind, I'm like, I do have the same opportunities. What are you talking about? But then I have to try to convince myself that I didn't have the same opportunities. But I know I did because I'm literally living my own life. So it's like, it's gaslighting it if you really think about it. Because believe it or not, a lot of black people do have the same opportunities. But if we say that, that's like, I guess, wrong. No, I have the same opportunities. I probably had more opportunities, if we're being completely honest. But yeah, like, it's just gonna create more divide. Like, what is teaching kids this gonna do? That's my thoughts. Me personally, I don't think kids below the age of 12 should be introduced to everything in life yet. Some things you learn naturally, or some things is to the parents' discretion. But if you're in schools and you're teaching kids this, they don't even have the mental capacity. A lot of children don't have the mental capacity to even understand topics like this. All they see is, wow, you're different, and this is why you're different, you're bad. Like, kids are kids. So it's like gaslighting. It's just not good.
I think this panel is probably not the best example for, you know, people's skin color holding them back, because
we've done all right.
Yeah, I mean, you've got
an
Oxford and a Cambridge graduate, and both entrepreneurs and business owners. I mean,
But I think we're testimony to the fact that the United Kingdom is not institutionally racist. Actually, when I was brought up, and I'd welcome your view on this, Zubi, and yours, Beverly, I was taught everyone is equal.
Yes.
And that is a fundamental foundation from which you can advance. The minute you say black lives matter more than white lives, you've put a racial division down the middle of society.
But if we just consider where this came from, where this, as you would describe it, as reverse racism, or racism against white people came from, it stemmed from positive discrimination, did it not?
Yeah.
So quotas in the workplace.
Diversity and inclusion. These are bad things.
But did they not start out with good intentions?
Well, I think it's more sinister than that. I think Zubi's absolutely right that there are vested interests, but there's a political ideology and it's quite a sinister one. And
when it comes to capitalism, like these big corporations, it's low-key hard for me to think a lot of things are done from good intentions, because the main objective of a company is to make money. So I always think of things from the point of view of what will make me the most money, what will get me rich the fastest, and I just can't think of doing what's good as that, because that was the case. Companies would continuously, like, they would consistently do what's good, but we know that's not always true. But anyways, I don't necessarily think division was done from the phrase of making money. For doing what's good. I think division is just good for capitalism. Like, if people are divided, they are fighting each other instead of fighting, I guess, a corporation. So yeah, that is just better for making money. It's really that simple in my opinion.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there is a perpetual tug of war between democracy and those that govern us. And those that govern us want to take power away. And as you know, I'm a Brexiteer.
Yeah.
And one of the mechanisms by which our governing class strip the people of their democratic rights is by handing power over to independent bodies, sometimes domestically, sometimes supranationally. And the EU is a really good example. And if you believe in things like supranational bodies, the pooling of sovereignty, you can achieve your aim much more easily if you undermine national identity.
Yes.
And the way you undermine, it's
go
quite
on.
complex, but the way you undermine national identity essentially is to get citizens of a nation to lose their self-confidence.
Yes.
So that's why you see an attack on white people in this country. You see, if you're at school, you're taught, and if you're white, that actually your forefathers were slave traders, that you should be ashamed of the British Empire, that those who guaranteed our freedom by fighting Nazi Germany were actually no more than white supremacists, that you are entitled, you should be ashamed of that entitlement. They undermine our language as well. They promote, ostensibly promote minority interest to the detriment of the majority by making you sexually phobic if you don't sign up to their LGBTQ plus agenda. You know, it's multifaceted, this attack.
And yet you think it has an ideological globalist.
It does.
Because you know what's so interesting, Ben?
Yeah.
Hearing you say the word self-confidence, because when you were talking then, Zubi, about the fact that you feel you never experienced overt racism, I'm looking at it and thinking, why? And what I'm seeing is self-confidence.
Yeah.
Like nothing but self-confidence. And I wonder whether that, because you give off this energy, that means you don't
I've had
yourself as a victim, and therefore you don't become a victim.
Look, I mean, you get idiots on the internet who might, send random stuff to you behind anonymous profiles, but who cares? What impediment is that to my life?
That's right.
The truth is, with all of these situations, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking about racism, you're talking about sexism, you're talking about any of the phobias and isms, all these things that people are massively concerned about, the best that you can do as a society and as a culture, and even under the law, is treat everybody fairly.
That's facts, bro. The best thing you can do is treat everybody fairly and equally. But when you're teaching a natural divide to children, that has literally never been a good idea. Like, that doesn't... I don't even know why people will want to do that. Like, teaching... Think about it. They're not adults. Teaching children these type of things is a huge issue because they're kids. They can't even fathom certain things. Let's be honest. We're still teaching these kids about Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. You probably still think the Easter Bunny exists. He probably do exist. I don't know. And you're teaching these same kids, like, critical race theory. Like, bro. And I get it. Kids are smarter than they put off, but, bro, some things I don't agree with. But anyways, if you have any thoughts about this video, you have anything you want to tell me, comment down below. That was my video, and I'll see you later.